Welcome to Village in Motion this Friday, October the 9th. The time is moving on. I'm Clint Lambert. It's my pleasure to be the host today for Village in Motion, and I have with me Betty Christman, who's the president of the Resident Council here at Green Spring. And Betty has some significant information to share with us in regards to the national senior campuses and the effect that they have on the Resident Council and the relationship and all those things that are going on between the two. Good morning, Betty.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing great, and I hope you are also.
Good.
Good. Betty, there is a lot of things happening with all the changes, the governance, the actual formation of the council now, thanks to the national senior campuses, right?
Right.
I don't know how many people understand what national senior campuses are.
Well, I'm going to explain a little bit about national senior campuses.
All right.
I have a slide that should be shown soon on the screen that talks to what the National Senior Campuses is. And if you look at the left-hand side under the governance column, National Senior Campuses, or the NSC as we refer to it, is a non-for-profit organization that is committed to providing affordable housing, health care, and other related services to middle-income seniors. They are a supporting organization in that they provide governance, oversight, supervision, and strategic planning for 16 continuing care retirement communities across the U.S. And those 16 we're familiar with as the Erickson Living communities.
Are they, Betty, I want to slow you down. Are there any other campuses that they relate to at all?
They're the only ones they give support to,
okay,
because that's their charter, is for non-for-profit.
All right.
There are some for-profit communities that are also within the Erickson umbrella,
okay,
but the NSC does not provide governance to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. We've got the slide up, I see now.
Good. Okay. Where were we? The NSC consists of a CEO, who is new last year. They were newly hired in a new position, and 11 directors that are shown in one of those really tiny boxes, which you can't really read. And each director is named as the chair of one of the supported community boards. And our chair here at Green Spring is Jackson Bain, who I think many of you are familiar with since he's been the community head of or the chair of our Green Spring Board of Directors for quite a number of years. I'd also like to just give you a little bit more information about the NSC, which is something that I didn't fully realize until I started doing these slides. Through the shared mission, values, business relationship that Erickson Living has with excuse me, I'm going to back up, that the NSC has with Erickson Living, the NSC is a governing entity, oversees development and operation of Erickson Living communities. I know that Erickson Living is contracted for by the NSC to do the management.
Right.
I did not realize that they also oversee the development of other communities. And
because what's happening is Erickson Living is building more communities.
Right.
And so the NSC is overseeing those, as they also have the governance over everything. And I don't know if people understand what governance is. Can you explain it? Or
you know, I really don't know.
Well, let me give you a definition as I found
please.
it, okay? And that definition is: governance is the establishment of policies and continuous monitoring of their proper implementation by members of the governing body of an organization. It includes the mechanisms required to balance the powers of the members with the associated accountability and their primary duty of enhancing prosperity and viability of the organization. And I think that pretty well.
Well, I think it is too, and I think that's the way I understand it also. And this is something that National Senior Campuses is really emphasizing more.
Yes.
Over the past several years, and we certainly saw it on the Resident Council this year because of their wanting to make all these changes that had not been even discussed previously.
Yeah, and that was suddenly dumped on you guys, right?
Oh yes, it was. In January, the end of January, we had a Zoom that we were all invited to, along with the Resident Council presidents from the other communities.
Okay.
And we were told that the National Senior Campus would be restructuring how the resident councils were run.
Right.
And we all thought we were running fine.
Yes.
So we didn't see any need, why fix something that's not broken?
And that's kind of like they wanted to be resident advisory council, right?
Yes.
And as all the others are, which is called RAC,
Yes.
which sounds like a torture chamber.
Yes, it does. And I personally, it's written into our Constitution and bylaws
Right.
and into our procedures manual that we are a RAC.
Right.
But I will continue to call us the Resident Council
Yes.
because that just it's smoother
Yes.
to say that.
Exactly.
And it just sounds better than RAC.
Yeah. And we can thank Elaine Sorensen for doing that when she was president back in 2006,
Exactly.
I think it was.
Right.
Along those lines of saying, we are a resident council, we're not a RAC, we're not a
Right.
torture chamber.
Yeah. And, we've used that term, resident council, for so many years that we just felt it would be too confusing
Exactly.
to the residents to all of a sudden have to change.
Certainly.
The other big thing that we did is the NSC wanted all of the council presidents to be called a chair. And I just felt that's too many chairs. I mean, we've got the chair of the council, we've got the vice chair of the council, we've got a chair of a committee. Too many chairs,
Right.
and you don't understand who is truly in charge.
Right.
So my stance was to continue to call myself, or whoever's in this position,
Right.
the president of the council,
Right.
because that in fact shows who does lead the council,
Yeah.
and I just think it's better to do it that
Yeah,
way.
and it's more understandable.
Yes, absolutely. It really is.
Yeah.
They told us that the purpose in changing was to align all of the councils with the goal of increasing efficiency, effective decision making, the ability to scale and grow in the future, and enhance the voice of the resident. The one thing they wanted was consistency across all of the councils with how things were done. And I tend to agree with doing that simply because it makes it a lot easier if you've all got the similar ways of doing
Right.
things. What my objection was is that they were going to actually tell us how to do things here at Green Spring. And I kept battering on that and finally got an email back from one of the vice presidents
tremendous.
at NSC saying, okay, you can do that as long as you keep within our parameters. And I think that was one very good way to do that.
Right. With this, those changes in the governance structure really made for things to be complex to start with.
Yes,
in doing
yes,
all
they
the
did.
changes, right?
Yeah.
But it's making it simpler in regards to interaction with the other 16 communities.
Yes, it is. And the one thing that I have found, and this is probably, for me, I think the biggest advantage of these changes is all 16 of the council presidents or chairs
Right.
have grouped together, and we are constantly sending emails back and forth to each
Tremendous.
other. We've never done that in the past because we
exactly.
didn't know who the other person
Exactly.
was. And we also have a Zoom once
Okay.
a month for at least 2 hours. Sometimes it's even longer,
Tremendous.
where we just talk about things that have been happening, give advice to others. People have asked me how we do things here, and I'll send them an email back and tell them I've asked for advice from others, and it's the same thing.
That's
I think it's a
wonderful.
very good way to tie all of the communities together and do get that similarity that the NSC was wanting.
Because until this point, you've only had the 5 communities within Virginia, Maryland come together,
Right.
and meet once a year
Yeah.
as the councils. But we've never gone out and met anyone else or talked with anyone else.
No, that's right, and this is great. In fact, we're trying to think of a way where we can have a meeting face-to-face at
Yes,
some point.
that'd be tremendous.
Because I think that would be even better.
Yes.
It may preclude some coming, like from Denver area or
Right.
for Michigan, Texas, Florida, but at least those here in, the Central East Coast
Coast, yeah,
area
right.
could get together and
Right.
talk about it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think it would too. I put in another slide that I want to talk about. I call it the upside down slide because it has Green Spring residents at the top,
Yes.
and I said, hey, people are going to think we're in charge,
Yeah.
and we're really not.
Right.
But anyway, this shows, it gives a depiction of how things will be done within the council in getting forward to national senior campuses, and in fact elevating the residents' voice. You know, that's their big motto for
Right.
this. The big changes is to elevate the residents' voice, and I think to a certain extent this is an unknown right now because we haven't had to practice it.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see how it does work.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say, and what I've read and everything in regards to this, is that the NSC really wants the residents to give feedback via the council through ELM, through Erickson Living Management, directly to NSC. Is that correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
We don't go through Erickson Living
All right,
Management at
okay,
all.
okay.
I mean, we've got two ways of giving our input, and what I'm looking at is the one that directly deals with the national senior campuses.
Okay.
I intend to do the same thing on the Erickson Living part, because if we have things that we want to recommend that Erickson Living make changes to,
Right.
then I will go through Chandra to Erickson Living.
Okay.
But right now, the way they have this set up is I go from the resident council and the residents to Jackson Bain, who is the NSC chair of the Green Spring Board of Directors,
Okay.
up to the NSC.
And within the board of directors, what there are in NSC, there's 11 different members in NSC,
Yes.
correct? And then they're broken up into community.
They're
groups?
assigned to different communities in each of the separate areas. You know,
Okay.
we're in the South region, so Jackson is assigned to us. He's not assigned to Riderwood or, you know, Ashby Ponds. So they're assigned to different communities.
Okay. And so he is the person to go to
Yes.
in regards to governance
Yeah, for us.
for us.
Yeah,
okay?
for Green Spring.
All right. So he's your contact.
Yes, yeah,
All
he
right.
is.
All right.
I just want to read you a quote that came from Michelle Borer, who is the chair of the NSC board, and this kind of explains what they envision the resident voice being elevated. The closer we can put the voice of our residents to the board policy and decision-making process, the better. We believe the elected resident council chairs can provide the community boards a clear and highly informative view of community and regional issues and opportunities. And that's pretty much their intent of what they anticipate.
Okay.
Okay?
What kind of things would go to the NSC from the residents, through you, through the council, to the NSC?
If we wanted to recommend any changes at all to how things are done here, they would go to the national senior campuses and the board of directors there.
That's from a policy and governance standpoint, right?
Yes, yes it is.
Not from a day-to-day maintenance.
No, day-to-day is strictly on the Erickson Living side of the house.
Okay.
And national senior campuses does not want to touch that at all.
Okay.
I think they will indirectly, you know, from the higher up level, but not from this level. Let me give you an example. We had because of the COVID, National Senior Campuses, who is really the one who sponsors and hires the contractor to do the resident survey every
Right,
year,
right.
decided not to do it this year.
Exactly.
Because there just was not enough that they could really get reported on.
Okay.
We here at Green Spring wanted to do a Green Spring specific survey.
Yes.
And Phil Sciano, who is our secretary on the resident council, put many, many hours in developing a survey that we felt
Okay.
was worth doing
Yes.
on a Green Spring level, just for Green Spring internal use,
Okay.
not to go forward anywhere else.
Right.
And that was submitted to Jackson Bain, and Jackson talked to the folks up at the NSC, and they decided there wasn't any worth in doing that.
Ooh. Okay.
And I totally object to that.
Yes.
I really do.
Yes.
And my plan is to, talk with the council and perhaps go forward with a stronger message.
Okay.
Because my intent in sending anything forward to the NSC is to send a packet of information, not just a single document that doesn't explain why you want to do something.
Right.
We have to base it on facts. We have to base it on what it's going to end up doing for us here at Green Spring in that particular case. And
it's kind of like being in the military and really needing to justify
No,
request.
that's exactly right. Having worked for the government for 35 years, I did I don't know how many decision papers that had to go forward. That's the type of thing that I would look forward in doing, because that's the only way they're going to understand.
Right.
One of the faults that I find with the structure that the NSC has set up now, my having to go to Jackson Bain, tell him what we want, and he taking that up to National Senior Campuses.
Right.
They're missing really that voice of the resident.
Yes, it's being filtered.
Because I cannot speak for the resident at that point.
Right.
I can speak to Jackson about what the residents want,
right.
but he is taking it forward. And it's hard, I think, for him to explain what we want because he's not living it on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
So that's going to be one of the things that I go forward with because
Very
I
good.
think it's wrong. Previously, the resident director and the director living in the community would be able to go to the board of directors at National Senior Campuses and explain face-to-face what they wanted. But now we're cut off from doing that.
Yes, because we no longer truly have a director living in community, right?
That's exactly right.
And now all that responsibility falls on you.
Yes.
So you're both the president of the council and you're quote unquote the director living in community.
Yeah, but they're not using that term anymore.
Right.
That term was eliminated also on March 31st of this year was when that position was effective to no longer be there.
Okay.
And then effective the 1st of April, the elected president of each of the community councils was elevated to work with the community board to ensure that resident experience happened. So that is what happened, yes.
Yeah. With that then, it sounds like the intent really is to hear more from the residents.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just that we don't have that direct contact yet because we're still going through Jackson.
Yes.
To get to the NSC.
Yep.
Okay. What can we as residents do to facilitate that, to where we have a voice and that we can support you and the council?
I really don't see that we have to do much more than what is already being done.
Okay.
Because I hear from residents on a daily basis. I get emails, I get phone calls, I get emails. Grix is full of emails from the residents. So that piece of it, I don't think we have to worry about at all because I think everyone is doing what they need to do. We maybe need more voice from the residents, but the venues are there now and they're being used.
Okay.
Some of the other things that the residents could do would be to ensure they attend any of the town halls and the coffee with the executive team when we can have those, whether it's a virtual or face-to-face. Because there they find out a lot of what's going on and there's an opportunity to ask their questions, questions that I can take forward to the NSC.
And so it's kind of like right now while Chandra or Melissa's doing the bi-weekly now.
Right.
Every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Every other Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
Right.
That we could call in or we could give messages to you or give messages directly through Chandra.
Right.
Prior to those, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The other thing they could do is volunteer for a leadership position.
Yes.
Elect to be on the council itself because that's where you find out more of what is happening within this community and we're able to give more of a voice to Chandra for changes and through Jackson up to the NSC.
Okay.
And the other thing is to become a member of one of our standing committees.
Yes.
And that opportunity will be coming up very shortly because residents will again be given a listing of all of our committees, subcommittees, or standing committees, I'm sorry, and be able to prioritize the top 3 that they would like to participate in.
Once you do that, once a resident turns that in, and that will be coming out, end of October, 1st of November?
It should be coming out in the November timeframe.
Okay. And we fill out, and we list our priorities.
Right.
What happens then to that?
That list comes to the council, and the incoming president for next year will take that listing and decide how to divvy out, the meeting, the committee meetings that they will be participating on.
Okay. And so it's up to the president and to the council as far as who goes to which committee, right?
Yes. Now, I have always felt that we need the continuity in the committees, so
Yes.
I'm not going to be changing too many of the committee members.
Right.
We do want new blood to come in,
Right.
so we will have new members come in. But if somebody has been on that committee for several years and has been working actively in doing what that committee's purpose is, then my tendency is to continue them on that committee.
Okay. But even if they're on the committee at the present time, they still need to fill out the application
Yes.
to let you know that they want to stay on the committee,
Yes,
right?
they do. That's one thing, because the committees all end
Okay.
on the 31st of December, and that's
Right.
when we start new ones. And they will be formed sometime middle of December, and the residents will be notified what committees they will be on.
Prior to the first of the year,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Because it all starts again the first of the year.
Yes, it does. And I'm hoping that we may be able to meet a little more face-to-face, at least with smaller community or
Yes.
committees than we have been. But if not, we're going to use the Zoom, just
Okay.
like we have in the past.
And we're still functioning with that.
Yes, we are.
And like the finance committee that I'm chairman of, I mean, we're still able to meet in person because
Right.
there's only 7 of us in regards to it.
Yeah.
The General Services Committee, some of those committees, the subcommittees meet in person, and,
Right.
and overall they meet as far as Zoom. So
Exactly.
committees are functioning, they are
Yes, they
working.
are, yeah.
Okay, in regards to that. Very good. With all this, what needs to be done that hasn't been done so far? Is there any special thing that stands out that the council needs to be doing, or the residents need to be doing, or the committees need to be doing?
Well, I think the council certainly needs to make our voice, the residents' voice, heard more up to the NSC on where we think changes need to be made. Part of this whole change process also dictated to us what committees we could have, what standing committees. And I think, as most of the residents are aware, dining services, general services, the finance committee, resident life are staying as they were. There are no changes there. We will be adding the philanthropy committee, which will pull the committee that's been working directly under Kimberly Nelson, who's director of philanthropy. They will move under the resident council and will be treated as another council committee.
Okay.
We have moved ancillary health under the medical center and Garden Ridge and
Good.
renamed it Health Services.
That way we'll put all the health committees together, right?
Yes, absolutely. And Melissa Robeson has been working for over a year on how to put that structure together.
Okay.
The COVID kind of put a stop to her plans, but she's picking that up now. And I think it's a better way to have all of the health services, the health care that the residents need under one umbrella, so that they each know what everything else, everybody else is doing. I think it's just going to be a better fit.
Good.
The new committee that we had to form is called Diversity and Inclusion Community Relations.
Yeah, it's social.
Yes, social
responsibility.
community social responsibility.
There's-
Exactly right. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
That's
Forgot
okay.
about what that is. There is a staff diversion and inclusion committee already, and we are joining that to help them and try and decide how we're going to formulate our own community or
good.
committee later on. I think we will still be working as co-partners with the staff, because that's where a lot of that work is done.
Okay.
And we can add to that. So those are the two biggest changes.
But we'll still have 8 committees.
We're going to have 7
7
committees.
committees. Oh, 7 committees, okay.
Yeah. We're going to have also a small communications committee.
Oh, that's right.
It's going to be a subcommittee, but it's going to be under the executive committee
Okay.
of the resident council, which is the president, the vice president, and the secretary.
Okay. Sounds
That
good.
way we can control them a little more and decide what needs to be done
Right, okay.
and how it's done.
All right. You mentioned the executive committee. What do you guys do? We have 2 minutes.
Is that all?
Yes, all.
Boy, this time has gone fast. We will be meeting with the community board chair on a regular basis. The NSC said minimum of, well, they say 2 times a year.
Right.
And I say that's not enough. There's just too much going on. And, an hour for each meeting, it's not going to work that way. So we will be meeting on a regular basis. If we can't meet face-to-face, we'll have a Zoom or something else. But we do need to talk with our board chair
Right, yeah.
much more frequently than they expect. And we will have our first Zoom meeting with him next month.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. Sounds good.
We also need to continue on a regular basis meeting with Chandra, Melissa, and Ty.
Okay.
And right now, we have been meeting once a week. We have a Zoom or a telecon. I meet with Chandra twice a month, one-on-one basis, which is very, very beneficial. She and I talk regularly. If she has an issue she wants to talk about or I have a problem, I can give her a call, and we do talk much more frequently than we really have been in the past, which is great. The meeting to include myself, the vice president, and the secretary, that's twice a month also.
okay.
And so they get to talk. And it's a good time to exchange what's happening, the resident concerns, any issues that are coming up, our recommendation on how to fix things, talking about rumors that are out there floating around. I continue to watch GRIX and pull together issues and things that I think Chandra and her management team need to know about. And I send them to them regularly. I send that listing to them and, give my thoughts and recommendations. I've done that throughout this whole COVID period, which I think has been very beneficial because they know how to focus what they want to talk to the residents about.
Well, I tell you what, you have done a tremendous job. You're going into your 3rd year starting in January.
Yes.
And we look forward to another very successful year for you and for the entire council. And we'll have 3 new people on the council, I understand.
Yes, we will.
Starting the new year.
Yeah.
And we look forward to all the work that's going to take place.
Thank you.
Okay?
We look forward to the new year.
Yes, very good. Thanks again, Betty. Thank you, folks, for tuning in today.